Welcome to the Real Estate 401k Show. Here are your hosts, Ryan Gerdes, Mike Weinstein, and Justin Frederick, helping you build a legacy of wealth through real estate. Powered by the Real Estate 401k Group at West USA and the Frederick Team with Fairway Mortgage and MLS number 625918.
Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside Ryan Gerdes. So this is, you're a native. You're an Arizona native.
Yep.
So you didn't have the experience like I did growing up in Southern California for all my years and moving out here. But when I moved out here in the early 90s, I'm not going to lie, most of everything looked the same. And as the town grew up and as the Valley of the Surface of the Sun grew up, we're seeing a lot, maybe creativity, a lot of different types of homes. And there's different trends that come out every year or every couple years and so forth.
I think that's fair.
We're finding, though, that, not all trends are holding their value. And so here's some of the types of homes that they are expecting. And I don't like to use the word plummet because I don't think anything's going to plummet here in Arizona.
Yeah, but it's not going to make headlines if they don't have those types of power words or buzzwords as their headline.
Yeah, well, that's true. All you got to do, if you want a headline, I don't care what blog you're writing. I don't care what topic you're talking about. Just put Taylor Swift in the title.
Yeah.
And you're put a little Tay-Tay in there,
Yeah.
and you are trending. But I
support our troops.
Oh crap! I could go so many many directions on this one, but I'm more or less looking at the types of homes that I wouldn't necessarily. I'd be leery of investing in and leery of purchasing because I don't think that they're going to hold their value as well and not appreciate as much as other types of ones. And this is, to me, one of the biggest challenges that we have because when we have a seller that says, okay, we want to sell our home, and this home was built in the 80s and 90s, all they're doing is looking on Zillow, looking at this estimate and say, oh, well, look, Zillow says my house is worth $450,000, or this house, same square footage down the road, sold for $450,000. Now, yes, my house is completely outdated, never been improved, everything's original, and they think that their home is now automatically worth $450,000. In 2022, during COVID, when the market was crazy, it didn't matter. Everything was selling at full market value. I think for people who are trying to sell their house, or if you're buying a house that is outdated, you've got to make sure the price reflects that.
So one thing I have to throw out there with the public that I've been experiencing more and more of, and I'm just over the moon with it, is most people are coming to me and saying, yeah, Zillow said this, and it's full of crap. And so I do appreciate that, and not that I'm talking smack about Zillow, but I think that what we've been saying all along as far as estimates go. There's no personalization on how they're doing their valuations, right? So I applaud the folks that are saying, hey, wait, let me question this a little bit. And so I do want to throw that out there. So this is a great article as far they make some compelling arguments and yeah, I think that it talks about outdated single family homes. That they're one of the ones that are going to likely see hardship whenever it comes to bringing it to the market. And I think that for the most part, people with outdated homes, they see it, they know, they know that home across the street, whether if it's a model match and same year built, etc., if it's been completely renovated, that it's going to fetch a higher dollar than theirs. There's definitely some out there that are still unrealistic, but we haven't seen a market in a long time like this that is driven more towards I don't want to do a thing to this. I want a turnkey property, and I'm willing to pay for it. That's why I feel like new homes are doing so well on top of their savviness when it comes to the financing element. But I do think that people that do have a dated home, they need to explore all their options. There's so many really good financing options out there and different products that are available to help them get that home up to snuff so that they can not only sell it for a bundle more and get an ROI on it, but they can sell it for sell it that much faster. So I think it's a two-pronged thing here when it comes to outdated single-family homes.
And I think sellers need to understand that most buyers aren't as savvy as our buyers that we represent because they're not aware of a lot of different loan types. So in most cases, if you are selling an outdated home, you've got to understand that that buyer, in addition to closing costs, in addition to down payments, and their down payments and closing costs are higher because property values are higher, you are now asking that buyer to come in with a considerable amount of cash to redo the floors, to paint, to redo the kitchen, to redo the bathrooms. And so that's a tall ask. And so to your point, we're not in the days where a buyer is just going to take anything so that they can have a roof over their head, and they're limited on cash. And so therefore they need that move-in ready home. And so with that, if you're the seller, what are some of the things that you do to make that house move-in ready?
Well, the number one thing is kitchen, and then it goes on to master bath, and then secondary baths, flooring, and paint. Those are usually just kind of like the big ones to go after. I think another oversight that we do need to mention here, because here's what I see a lot with sellers, is they say, okay, I have a home that could be worth $500,000. It's outdated. It's going to cost $100,000 in order to get it to that $500,000 mark. So math tells me I need to sell it for $400,000. Not true. Think about the decisions that go into it, the planning, the holding costs, and the overall experience required to navigate that $100,000 renovation. I call it the pain in the ass fee, right? Because even though I can walk through
the hemorrhoid fee.
Even though you and I can walk through this thing a heck of a lot easier than somebody who's never been through it before, it still takes time. We still have to go out there and shop, and you're like, oh, well, you poor thing, you need to go shopping for new stuff. It's a pain in the butt. It's difficult to find that time because it's not just the time of the contractors, it's my time as well. I have to go over there and get my boots on the ground in order to get it to how I want it. And so it's worth more than $100,000. So for me, if I'm moving into it, I might settle for $350,000 if I need $100,000 in order to move in with an additional $50,000 equity, because that's how much time I got to put into it. But for me, my investment model, I need 100%. So if it's worth $500, I'm buying it for $300, putting in $100, and then the other $100,000 is my profits based on my time and experience and everything else that goes along with doing that remodel.
Well, if you are in the market to sell your house and you're unsure of value and unsure of how the condition of your home impacts the value, and maybe looking for advice on some things that you could do to improve the move-in readiness of your home, you need to talk to a professional. You need to really talk to a real estate wealth manager, because this is what we do, and we buy homes and we sell homes ourselves, so we understand the process and introduce you to our, quasi Rolodex of people who get shit done for you.
That's right.
All you got to do is text the word sale to 623AZ Recon. That's sale to 623AZ Recon. On the onset of this episode, Ryan, I was talking about how the landscape has changed, the types of housing that we've seen pop up. Over the last 10 years, we've seen an influx of these high-rise luxury urban condos. Mm-hmm. There's some, in North Scottsdale as well as Old Town Scottsdale. Some of them are popping up around or have popped up around the downtown area, near where the Diamondbacks play and so forth. A consequence, I guess, of, and it never made sense because I've shown them, and I walk into them and they're nice, but I'm not in New York City, and I'm not in Newport Beach overlooking the ocean.
Sure.
And looking at these small 2-bedroom condos going for $900,000, $1 million, and things like that. For me, it just didn't make sense to me. But now, one of the consequences of COVID, we've seen a lot of people getting out of them, getting away from them, and going into the more, urban, not the urban area, but more the outskirts that want more space, more land, don't want to be so condensed. And I'm not seeing them as a great Well, anything's a good investment if you get it for the right price. So that's not necessarily the right way to phrase it. But at this point, I don't see them holding their value, and I see them taking a hit.
Well, in 2010, Consumer Reports started reporting that most home buyers wanted smaller lots, things that they could clean, lock, and leave, and then travel, and then come back. And that was large in part due to traveling for work was on the rise. And so having something that was convenient for that was on the rise. Now people are primarily working from home if they were in those heavy travel type of jobs, and so I can see that trend shifting the other direction. That makes sense to me. I think it says luxury urban condos. I think it really has to do with urban condos. I think that the ones that are doing really well, from the numbers that I'm seeing, are the ones that are a little more suburban. There's still a high demand for affordable housing, but I think that the other thing that the reason why they're tacking on that luxury part in there is due to the high HOAs. People are getting sick of paying $600, $700, $800 a month for the concierge and the all these things that they feel is adding value to it. But for the most part, there's only a handful of people that are really utilizing those things that the HOA is offering, and they just don't see a whole hell of a lot of value in it. They'd rather, if they're going to go out and do some socializing, they'd rather go to a music venue or to a bar or something like that they can just jump into an Uber. So I think that Uber probably is
Take what you would
plan.
pay in your HOA, turn that into your Uber fund,
Right.
buy something cheaper, and you're good.
Yeah, I mean, I can not worry about having a couple of cocktails and driving, because I can go onto my mobile app and Uber or Lyft. It'll be there within 15 minutes, take you wherever the hell you want to go. So I can see why that would be on the D
you bring
side.
up, I think it's interesting, and I think it's worth mentioning. You bring up a high HOAs. I think this is something that a seller you have to take into consideration when you're selling a property that's got an incredibly high HOA payment, whether it's $700, $800, $900 a month. I mean, that's pretty darn close to $1,000 a month. That takes a big hit on what a buyer can qualify for, because a lender takes HOA payments into account when qualifying people. So you have to take that into account when you're coming up with price, or you're buying something that you think you're going to sell. It could drop the value, or I shouldn't say the value. It could drop what somebody can afford by $100,000.
The smart ones are actually implementing social clubs, or they're separating the golf club or the country club from the HOA, whereas before it was all just thrown into one. And it was, hey, we don't care if you want to be part of the golf club or not. You're going to be paying for it because you live in a golf course community. But we've seen a lot more social clubs that are rolling out, and they're doing some really cool things. And so they can live in the area that they want, pay a low or no HOA, join the social clubs if that's what they're wanting out of their quote-unquote HOA, and then they'll pay it because they actually use it. So what's the Toll Brothers one? Is it not Silverleaf?
Well, there's a Silverleaf.
Sterling Grove. Sterling Grove, they built a social club out there right next to the golf club, and it's doing really well because the folks out there that want it, they're paying for it, and they'll use it. Otherwise, it's fairly affordable to be in there if to just pay the HOA fees. So we're seeing movement in that, but the HOAs on these luxury condos that aren't getting the message, they're going to start losing some money and start filing bankruptcy, or they're going to have to adapt.
Well, whether you are selling a property and looking for, exactly what your property is worth and understanding the type of property and how that impacts your value, or you're a buyer and you're wanting direction, you're wanting that right strategy, understanding what things to stay away from and what things you might want to focus on. Our team of real estate wealth managers is here to help you. All you got to do is text the word SALE to 623-AZ-RECON. That's SALE to 623-AZ-RECON. All right, for the sake of time, we'll make this quick, but you talk about this all the time, about oversized properties in declining neighborhoods. And I think this has to do a lot with people who maybe are going to buy a lot, scrape down the house, or they find a great deal on a piece of vacant land inside a declining neighborhood. And you can tell the house, like you're driving down the street, and then you got just a declining neighborhood, and then you got the Taj Mahal. It doesn't seem to fit, but can be a financial catastrophe.
Mm-hmm. And I see the flip side too. I see people going over there and they're going to buy an acre lot, and then they're going to put a 1,300 square foot home on it when everyone else is 5,000 plus square feet. It's just the idea behind real estate is to utilize it to its best and highest and best use, right? And so if you are moving into one of those areas that does suffer socioeconomic or demographic issues or whatever when it comes to crime or income or elements like that, you need to understand what your surroundings are, right? So go over there. If what you're trying to accomplish out of your project is not in line with what's going on in the neighborhood, go find somewhere else. And really, you don't need to do a whole lot of research. You can just drive the neighborhood and tell within 5 minutes whether or not it's a good fit or not.
Yeah, because if I'm in a declining neighborhood, I buy a piece of land, and now all of a sudden I overbuild. It's twice as big. It's 3 times as much to build. You got to ask yourself, who's going to buy it? It's not that the house itself isn't beautiful, and it's not that the house itself isn't desirable, because I would be like, if you could take that house, pick it up, and move it 3 blocks over to this neighborhood, I'm all in. But I don't want to buy a $900,000 or $1.1 million house in a neighborhood where the median home price is $400,000 and going down.
Yeah, and the thing that I see, the biggest mistake that I see most people make on these types of things is they say, "Oh, well, let's approach it from a price per square foot, what we're going to sell it for," and it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what the supply and demand of the neighborhood is, right? And then it has to do with the function. So if you go over there and you build a 5,000 square foot house with a 2-bedroom, 8-bathroom, and whatnot, it's just not going to. It's not going to do it. It's not going to do anything for you. So, yeah, I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer. When going back to what you said before, like in 2021, where everything was selling because I feel like everyone was just trying to get a piece of dirt. Then those are the exceptions, not the rule. But even then, stay away from it if it's not a good fit. And then there's a couple other things on here. Homes in climate vulnerable areas. And I saw that headline, and I'm immediately thinking, well, we're screwed. Because summertimes are freaking brutal here, right? But, it's talking more about areas with high flood and earthquake and tornadoes, et cetera. But, a lot of people, they can't handle the heat. So there's definitely an element of that we see people moving out of here because it's just too damn hot for them. But most people,
okay, it's different though. It's different because I grew up in Southern California. You couldn't sense, you couldn't smell, you couldn't predict an earthquake. When an earthquake hit, it hit. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes when you're in the part of the country with hurricanes, you can predict them, but you don't have a lot of time. Tornadoes, you only have moments. Yes, it's hot here, but you know it.
Yeah.
and you prepare and you make a plan for it.
Yeah, May through September or May through Halloween it's going to be hot. Get over it. And it's funny how every single summer, this is the hottest summer known yet, and then they're going to find some weather person that finds some obscure stat that says, oh yeah, this justifies why it's the hottest summer ever, and it's like every summer sucks. And when it comes to the heat,
Yeah, but bro,
it's hot.
Bro, this summer, are you kidding me? This summer, we had swirl cacti melting. They're freaking cactus. They live in the heat. They live in the desert, and they're melting.
Okay. I mean, so there's the obscure fact of the day as to why this past summer was the hottest summer.
All righty. Well, we are all about strategies. Our team of real estate wealth managers is here to help you build a legacy of wealth through real estate, whether you're buying or whether you're selling. You want to know what all your options are. You want to have all the information, understand the market, understand the neighborhoods, and that is what we excel at. If you'd like some more information, all you got to do is text the word SALE to 623-AZ-RECON. That's SALE to 623-AZ-RECON.
Thank you for joining us on the Real Estate 401k Show. If you want more information on how to build wealth, click on the link or text us at 623-297-3266. That's 623-AZ-RECON.